Thunder cracks created steps in the alley. Demons scatter quick, shadows play a rally. Angels pull up in hoodies, wings tucked tight. Heaven's militia ready to ignite. Chains rattling, streets screaming in pain. Evil out here wildin', trying to stake its claim. But the squad don't sleep, nah, they don't fold. Flame swords drawn, their wrath runs cold. Creator fights for you, the streets can't deny. Angels on patrol, wings cut in the sky. Evil runs, evil hides, it's a battle every night. But the light don't lose, nah, the light gon' fight. Concrete jungle where prayers get raw. Creator got that blueprint, he lays down the law. Angels circle the block, halos dim for war. They ain't here for peace talks, they settle the score. Knuckles crack, fists fly, darkness gets smacked. Evil got no alibi, caught in the act. Holy vengeance on deck, justice intact. Creator's army on the streets, never off track. Midnight sirens, but they don't need no badge. Heaven soldiers turn sin into ash. Midnight sirens, but they don't need no badge. Heaven soldiers turn sin into ash.
Good evening, all you beautiful weirdo warriors out there tonight. I'm Nighthawk, your host, and we are going to get right into the thick of things for the next hour. We are going to talk about the connection that the human body has to the supernatural and paranormal realms and activity. Okay, that being said, we're going to get into the disclaimers, and I'll say hello to a few people, and we'll get into it, okay? As always, I claim fair use of any and all content under Copyright Act of 1976, which makes allowances for purposes such as entertainment, value, parody, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, research, and entertainment value under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Furthermore, I wish to acknowledge that not all the opinions or theories mentioned during the podcast are not necessarily the opinions or the views of Nighthawk High Strangers podcast channel, or AKA myself, William Nighthawk. But unfortunately, tonight is my opinion and is my information from my years of doing research in the paranormal and supernatural. So that being said, I fully back up everything I say tonight. So we at Nighthawk High Strangers YouTube channel and Facebook channels merely bring the open format to discuss the possibilities of the topics happening in the past, present, and future. Please join the Nighthawk High Strangers YouTube channel family by subscribing, and please hit that thumbs up, that like button, and that bell icon to all, okay? Alrighty, and put all questions in capital letters. Usually I'd like to do the questions at the end, say the last 15 minutes of the podcast. So, I may not see your questions if you put them in there immediately, okay? But I want to get through. I want to have the energy to get through my introduction to why I'm doing this podcast tonight, okay? The connection to the paranormal from the... Okay, I'm going to show myself here. Let's see here. Let me get to the comments real quick before I start anything here. Let's say hello to a few people. David, good to see you. David, you'll be interested in this. Bigfoot Dwarf, good to see you. Candy, good to see you. Let's see. Carl, good to see you. Corey, good to see you. Jonaside, good to see you. Okay. And of course, we got a lot going on tonight with other channels. So Dario, good to see you, man. Good to see you in here. My brother from Italy. All right. So we're going to get into it, okay? We are going to get into it. You all know what I've been dealing with my disability and my near-death experiences I've talked about several times on the podcast. Once at 3 years old, a little bit, about 3.5 years old, actually. And, during the cancer, the first initial battle, I died too on the operating table. And I had a major heart episode back in 2000, and I believe it was 2006. So, and I've always had the belief that whenever you go through an NDE, a near-death experience, it heightens your abilities to connect with the supernatural and the paranormal. Okay, on so many levels. I mean, it's astronomical the volume of increased activity you experience. Okay, and it's kind of like what I've always said about being able, being humans and being able to see and hear on a certain scale. Okay, now that scale being the human eye can only see between 430 to 770 terahertz, and our ears can only detect sounds between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz. Okay, that is a very, very small percentage on the whole spectrum of visual and audio capabilities. That's like a 0.035%. Okay, that you are inherently born with. Okay, so conceivably, if you don't have something tragic happen to you, whether it's a near-death experience, whether you're born with a so-called disability, or you get a disability later on in life, um, basically, you have a very, very slim chance of interacting with the paranormal, unless unless you use electronic devices. Okay. Now, hear me out on this one. Okay. What I'm talking about right now, we're dealing with the whole paranormal and all that, and the ability to interact with it, is that we have to understand that most of the paranormal activity that is captured on electronic devices. Okay. I.e., EVPs, full spectrum cameras, the whole electronics field is thrown at it. Okay. Even cat balls. Okay. Um, so it's because of the frequency difference between the paranormal and supernatural to the human's capability. That's why electronic devices can be manipulated and controlled much by the unknown. Okay. I want that to sink in. Okay. Because I'm going to blow your minds here. Okay. Types of supernatural encounters, like childhood, is the majority of all initial paranormal supernatural encounters involve children, whether it's in the physical form, in this world, in the 3D world, or if they're tragically in the spiritual world. Okay. It always involves 99.9% of the time children or nefarious beings pretending to be children. Okay. So, that being said, excuse me, I got the hiccups too. That being said, we have to understand that all the cases are basically going to be usually involving a tragic event, a repetitive fear, a disability such as autism, ADHD, PTSD, okay, bipolarism, and other types of alleged disabilities. And I'm using the air quotes because I don't see that as a disability. I see that more as an advantage to the individuals that have been diagnosed with that. Okay. Here's the thing. Everything that I just mentioned humanity deems as a disability. But to the spirit world, to the paranormal and to the supernatural realms, there's no such thing as a disability. Okay, because they're vibrating and communicating at such a high frequency that the disabled people and the people that have the near-death experiences have that heightened ability to take that chaotic feeling and transfer it into a way of accepting the communication from the paranormal and the supernatural. Okay, now you're all going to want to hear me out on this, okay, without interruption. Separating the paranormal and supernatural from mental illnesses, okay, let's just say mental illnesses, as a whole generality, okay. When we go through peyote ceremonies, okay, when we go through ayahuasca ceremonies, as indigenous people, it's a hallucinogenic, okay. It makes us more receptive to those higher frequencies that are being taught to communicated to us by the paranormal and the supernatural. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so taking that information and going with it, the same principle lies with autism, ADHD, and PTSD. Okay, and other disabilities along with that. Okay, now autistic children and adults in the paranormal and supernatural have a very, very good connection. Okay, me, in my opinion, is a gift, even though the majority of the public belief is that it's a disability. In my opinion, they are wrong. Okay, and I'm reading from my notes because I went through this and I couldn't remember it all. Autistic people and children especially have an ability to become overstimulated by voices, by noises, and other environmental triggers. Okay, loud jet plane engines, heavy traffic with honking horns, screaming, yelling. Autistic children do not like it when people argue. Okay, and are loud. They don't like sudden changes to the environment that disturb their tranquility, let's say. Okay, so that being said, okay, those environmental triggers, they adapt to deal with those overstimulation by rocking or spinning, okay, causing their heightened state of mind to overcome the sensitivity of the stimuli. Okay. I'll get the comments here in a second, Eric. I know I got you muted, brother. Hang in there. This makes them a great magnet, and any disabled person a magnet for the supernatural and paranormal. Okay. Autistic children, ADHD, PTSD, near-death experiences, it's all pretty much a way of heightening our way of communicating with higher frequencies. Okay, if that makes sense to anybody. I know several people out there in the chat and in the Weirdo Warrior family, they have autistic children. Heck, I might even be a little autistic myself. You never know. Okay, as much as lately as my mind's been going. So this makes them a great magnet, anyways, to the supernatural and paranormal, because both the paranormal and supernatural communicate at a much higher frequency than normal humans can interpret. Okay, think about that statement. Than normal human beings can interpret, because we were designed not to interpret the other realms. Okay, because of the frequency difference. Okay, that was taken from us in our development. Okay, our when we were made. Okay, in our DNA. Okay, at one time maybe we were capable of it, but something or someone took that ability from us. So what happens? The creator, what he does And she says, I'm going to get around this somehow. I'm going to give this child this way of perceiving the world. And he's going to lay down ADHD. Then he's going to take this adult over here and give them a near-death experience, giving them the innate ability to experience the paranormal and the supernatural. Okay? See where I'm going with this? All right. Then you have the coup de grace. You have autism. And the creator says, you know what? I know that this is going to be somewhat of a disadvantage to this child, but in the long run, it's going to make them be able to communicate much more higher frequencies than a normal human being would be able to. So I'm going to give them autism. Okay. You see, humanity looks at these things as perceiving it as a disability. And to me, it's not a disability. It's an advantage. Okay. It's a complete advantage. It gave certain individuals, certain children, and certain adults the gift to be able to interpret what's being said to them and shown to them by the paranormal and supernatural realms. Okay. So, where do we go from here? Well, first off, we need to figure out that when we're dealing with somebody that is experiencing communication and telling a normal adult, or even their clergy men and women, that they are experiencing something, and even though they're autistic or they have ADHD or bipolar or PTSD, don't deem them crazy, because they're not. They are literally a more of a heightened receptor, a receiver for the paranormal and the supernatural than a normal human being is. Okay? So when they say that they're experiencing things, I urge you all to believe them. Don't shrug it off. Don't pretend that, they're just, being silly, No. When a child tells you that they're experiencing something, they mean it. Okay? Children alone that even aren't disabled are highly susceptible to having paranormal and supernatural encounters. Irregardless of putting aside any disabilities, a normal, healthy child growing up is more susceptible to having encounters with the paranormal and the supernatural than an adult. And I'll tell you why. Remember that little thing called the imagination? The one thing that we as indigenous medicine people are taught is to never lose our imagination, because that puts us at a higher frequency to interpret things, to envision things, to manifest things. Autism, ADHD, bipolarism, PTSD, they're all ways to receive that higher frequency from the higher realms, whether it's paranormal or supernatural. And those children and those adults that have those gifts are not crazy. That's my opening statement, and it's 20 minutes long. I'm going to bring Eric on, and we're going to get into the Q&A aspect of it, because it's something that needs to be said. Okay. I've seen a lot of posting on social media about autism, okay, and other disabilities. And I think it's about time we bring that to the table. And I show you all the difference between being quote unquote normal, which to me is abnormal, as to being disabled, which to me is being gifted, if that makes sense. So I'm going to bring Eric on, turn his mic on, say hello to him. I know he just got off of his show, and I hope you all supported him and hit that like button on his show, and give him a big old fluffy hug, and we'll go from there. I'll add him to the stage. There he is.
Hey, everybody. That's funny. I'm actually hyperactive. I was diagnosed when
And that's
Ritalin
why you're
first came out.
experiencing everything.
Yep. I was diagnosed when Ritalin first came out. And I was so blessed that my doctor says, no, don't medicate him. Learn how to live with him and what's going on and how to deal with him.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly what my meaning of tonight is. I've talked to so many people on social media that have, and I hate using that term disability, disabled children, because to me it's not. It's a gift. Okay. In the old days before the white man came here, we'd call them gifted, okay, or special, okay. And we would, the whole tribe, the whole nation of people, the whole Oyate would look out for that child and take that child and nurture that child and help that child grow in the community. And that child was a gift. Okay. Most of the time when we deal with the supernatural and paranormal, if you think about it, you know, all the investigative tools are electronic devices. Okay. Now, that's only because we are incapable of communicating at that level of frequency. So they are able to manipulate those devices to communicate with us. So I don't know how anybody else feels about it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to let them fly. But it's just from what I've gathered over the years and from the notes that I have from my research, I thought it was a good topic to talk about tonight. I really did.
Yeah. I mean, and it seems like people with them abilities do experience more than what other people do as well. You know, I mess with people all the time when they're talking about how nuts I am and how crazy I am. I'm like, I always say, you ever stop and think that I might be the normal one here? Yeah.
Exactly.
I do some weird
and that's very true too, though. I mean, when you think about it in the scope of things, you know, it is a gift. It really is a gift, because you're able to have the ability to interact with something that most people don't even experience, that it's even next to them any moment of their lives, you know? So, yeah, I mean, I hope there's hundreds and thousands of paranormal investigators that can listen to this and understand that, you know, this is why electronic devices are so often successful in recording the paranormal, because we have no ability to interpret the communication ourselves physically. We have to rely on other devices because they can manipulate it from the other side to communicate with us.
Yeah, and that's the things, like, you know, is because I'm hyperactive, is that why I'm so in tune to my gift of discernment? Possibly, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's got it. It's just I'm more in tuned into it than the most are. I can't tell you why. I can't tell you. I just am. You know, like whenever I was talking about it the other day, like when I was having that negative entity attack me live on your show that one night. It was instantaneous. I mean, it was, and we felt it. We knew it was at a distance, and then it got violent because I kept ignoring it. I've always had that ability. And I know so many other kids and other adults has had that ability too, and they each have had something with them. Now, another problem we had to deal with, though, is people like to label things just to label it. So there, you can be mislabeled with something, and it happens often. It happened to my kids with their mom, and it wasn't until I got a hold of them and they kept having medicine given to them, and I got them off the meds, and to kind of find out they were misdiagnosed. But it was the same diagnosis that everybody in her family seems to get every single time, and they get a check from the state that way.
Right.
You do
Right.
that, you damage that child. And I'm so against that. Just make sure that it's something that's legit when you do that. Have
Yeah.
a very
And that's why I'm a big advocate when it comes to believing children. Okay. When children, especially an autistic or a bipolar or ADHD child, or a child that had an NDE, near death experience, or even an adult, tells you that they're experiencing something, we shouldn't automatically jump to conclusions that, oh, that's just their imagination running away with them, or oh, they're just being silly, or no, act like an adult, you're crazy. That's not it. Okay. These so-called disabilities that our great medical community has decided are disabilities and disadvantages to the human race, um, can't see their nose despite their face. Okay. Because they are the ones with the disability, because they cannot communicate at that higher frequency than the disabled people can. And that's what makes it such a marvelous thing to talk about tonight. So yeah, I'm curious to see what everybody else thinks. I really am.
yeah. Sorry, messaging DA real quick. Um, I used to be trumped. So I mean, that's a lot of things. Like I said, one of the biggest things is PTSD. Everybody and their brother gets labeled PTSD nowadays. You can fart wrong and have a little crack in your back, and you got PTSD. I think that's something that's very, very misdiagnosed. But somebody who's truly got that stuff, truly has autism, truly has hyperactivity, truly has all this other stuff that they claim that is bad for that person. Do you realize I've known more extremely intelligent people that is autistic than I have regular people? I'm talking about borderline genius,
Exactly.
if not genius, because they're autistic, than I have a normal person.
Yeah, exactly. Now let me put this past you too, Eric, and everybody in the chat. Okay. Did you know that the majority of missing people that are never found again, ever again, that just completely vanished, had a disability?
There's
They
been
had a
several
disability.
reports.
They had they had a disability that made them susceptible to things. Okay. And it has been proven that over 90% of people that come up missing that are never seen again have a disability, whether it's diabetes, whether it's a physical deformity, whether it's a so-called ADHD, bipolar, schizophrenia, autism, a near-death experience. It could be anything. Okay, a heart condition. You know, a white brain matter in the brain. Even dementia, and so I mean, if that's actually the enhancement, maybe the supernatural and the paranormal have something to do with these disappearances in these people. Maybe that's the connection.
Could be.
Maybe the disability
There's been a
is
lot.
not a disability. Maybe it's an advantage.
There's been a lot of reports of, especially Bigfoots, that have interacted with people with autism.
Exactly. Exactly.
So good news. Just found out I won't be on DA's show tonight.
Sorry, I got to give
So
my voice a rest here, Eric.
No worries. I won't be on DA's show tonight, so I'm free to just stick with you for as long as you're going to be on here.
Well, well, we ain't going to be on very long. I figured about an hour or so, if
Okay.
that, because I'm still not feeling well. We're still going to have the show tomorrow
Uh-oh.
morning. This and that. Um,
Okay.
where'd you go?
Oh, there
I
you
wanted
are.
to start
Okay.
that one Sunday off with doppelganger. So I'm a little bit teed off about this whole autism thing because so many people are saying that it's a disadvantage, and it may be a disadvantage in this world. Okay, it may be a disadvantage to the child or the adult that's suffering from autism or
Mm-hmm.
ADHD or bipolarism or whatever else goes along with that. I mean, for the time, now they call it schizophrenia. Okay, what if those
Yeah.
is because of a certain undiagnosed disability that they had, and it was the spirit world, the paranormal, the supernatural that was trying to actually legitimately communicate with them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think often we're so quick to slap a label on something that we just
Yes.
don't see that a lot of what humanity or society as a whole labels as a disadvantage isn't a disadvantage at all. It's more of a way of an advantage to interpreting things.
Yep. Yeah, and and that's the thing too, and that's kind of what I was hinting at earlier. When you misdiagnose somebody, and you do the treatments, you can cause a lot of harm to that person, a lot of harm. And I'm like, okay, are they doing this on purpose? Or I mean, why would a doctor purposely misdiagnose people? But let's face the facts, they do it all the time. And it causes a lot of harm. So I mean, I feel bad for them. You need to learn how to when somebody has that special ability, you need to learn not only how to deal with them, but how to teach them in a different way than you teach a other child that don't have it. The teaching methods between the two are different, and you need to learn how to listen, but you also need to learn how to help them to listen as well. So this is
Exactly.
something we got to think about. I agree with you, Manisha. I think it's done on purpose too. Absolutely. I absolutely think it's done on
Yeah.
purpose. So they're slapping people with labels
Well,
to.
I can tell right now. I can tell right now that they're messing with my
Mhm.
audio feed right now and my video feed. So they don't like the
Yep.
topic that we're discussing. That I just announced that and said that when the clock hit 33 minutes and 33 seconds. So I know for a fact that they're monitoring this podcast right now.
Yeah, you've been breaking up and freezing up for the last five
Just felt the
minutes.
need to talk about.
Mm. Oop, did I lose you? Nope. Okay. Yes, Josh, that'd be great. Great if they did. But um, yeah, this is something we got to take care of. You still have to teach this person right and wrong, but you also still got to listen to them. You just got to do it in a different way. So my mom, when it years and years and years went by before my mom finally accepted that I literally saw my grandmother's ghost at 3 years old. She fought me and fought me and fought me on that for years. Said I was just, oh, I was having a bad dream because I watched a scary movie and blah 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 blah, all this crap. I was like, no. I mean, Mom, she picked me up. I was floating in the air. No, it's a bad dream. And then finally, I was somewhere in
Mhm.
my mid to late 30s. And when we were talking about it, she goes, well, that's what she was buried in. Because she asked me, so what was it you saw when you said you saw my mom? What was it you saw? And I described to her how she looked, what she looked like, what she was wearing. She goes, well, that's what she was buried in. I said, so you still think I'm still sticking to the story. 30 years later, I'm still sticking to the exact same story, haven't changed it, nothing. And you're just now, are you finally listening to me thinking I'm not making it up? She goes, I just can't believe it. She goes, I just never wanted to accept it. I was like, it happened, Mom. Accept it or not, it happened. You sit there and try to tell, you wonder why I
Right.
can't come to you with certain things because you always shoot me down. You never listened.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. I guess that's the one thing about growing up the way I did. I was always taught that there was that special gift, and I knew after my first NDE, my near-death experience at the age of three and a half, that that something triggered me to be more receptive to the paranormal and supernatural, and to have more of an understanding about it and more of an ability to communicate or to even visualize it, okay, happening right next to me. So, and I've had that throughout my entire life. As put it aside, and pretend that it didn't happen, um, sometimes, but for the most part, I embraced that ability to communicate with the paranormal and the supernatural, and I never really feared it. Maybe at one time I would have, but after my NDE, my first NDE, that fear left me. And what's the one thing I say all the time to everybody? Do not walk in this life with any fear, no fear whatsoever, because you have no ability to understand how powerful you are. Okay. And the reason that the spirit world, the paranormal, and the supernatural have the innate ability to communicate with the disabled, with the autistic children, ADHD, bipolar, schizophrenia, any disability whatsoever, is because those survivors of that so-called disability are paranormal and supernatural magnets, because they can interpret that higher frequency of communication. And it's a firm belief that I have, and nobody, and I don't care who it is, I don't think anybody's going to be able to change my mind on that. Because when you actually look at the whole spectrum of the paranormal and supernatural encounters, 90% of the time, those encounters are because somebody that is encountering it has that disability or disadvantage, so to say, from what society labels us. Okay. So, the same thing could be said with cryptids for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's to say that something attached to the environment doesn't communicate on multiple spectrum or levels of frequency? You know, Otherwise they wouldn't be able to have it mobilize its prey with infrasound. You know, I mean, that's a frequency that humans normally can't feel. And when we do feel it, if we do have the ability to feel it, it makes us sick to our stomach and nauseated and very ill. Okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
even normal wildlife has more of an ability to interpret frequency. And I do believe that that's why dogs and cats are able to deal and see with the paranormal and the supernatural.
Yeah.
Okay. That's just I'm just putting it out there, everybody. It is what it is, okay? And I would love, even before I'm gone, if something happens to me, I pray somebody takes this information and goes with it even further and researches it and studies it even further, because I know in my heart of hearts that when somebody, and I'm having a hard time breathing right now, but when somebody with a disability tells you that they're communicating with something that is above and beyond what they've ever experienced, that it's because of that disability. Okay. And, and I make my case too with the whole missing persons thing, with the 411 thing that David Paulides does and talks about. The majority of missing people that are never found again have a disability that either they knew about or they didn't know about, but they had a disability. There is another key. Okay. There's another way of confirming everything I'm saying.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry,
yeah, it's
guys. I'm
just
having a hard time breathing. So,
all good. Yeah, I mean it's one of those things. I dated a woman once. She had an autistic kid that couldn't do math for crap. In 2 days, I had him doing really good math because I broke it down his style. And that's the thing. You got to learn how
yeah.
to break it down their style. And in 2 days, he was doing math like really good, and his teachers were praising how good he's done because I broke it down in a way he understands. They don't think like we think. We have to think like they think to get them to understand. So when they're seeing this stuff and this other things, is it made up? Absolutely. Yeah, I mean they've got a great imagination. So sometimes it is going to be made up. Not every time.
I'll
And
make
details in their
I'll make another.
mannerisms going to be
I'm gonna say this real briefly, okay? Because I'm having a hard time breathing right now. Um, I'm gonna further make my point by saying that when Leonardo da Vinci did his vision, his scrying, he was always under a hallucinogenic when he did scrying. Okay. And he looked in the water and he saw things and was able to see into the future and all that and experience and communicate with the supernatural. Okay. A lot of the prophetic people that interpret God's word, I'll bet you some of them didn't even know that they had a disability, whether it was a heart murmur, whether it was a certain, you know, disability like bipolarism or anything, even down to diabetes. I mean, I guarantee that people that interpret the word of God have some kind of connection to a quote unquote alleged disability. Okay. And again, I hate to say that word disability. I think it's a gift. Okay. And I think humanity's got it wrong, and society as a whole has got it wrong, that when they label somebody as disabled, that they need to label them as gifted. Okay, because that's exactly what it is. It's a gift to be able to interpret at a higher frequency and more often with the supernatural and the paranormal than a normal human being ever could have the capability of doing. Okay. So, but that's just my opinion. Okay. So, but I really wish somebody
Mhm.
would take this research and go even further with it, because I don't believe I'm going to have the time to do it or the ability to do it much longer. I'm sorry. I
Yeah, I mean
got to turn the
it,
camera.
it was kind of no worries. Kind of like what we was talking about today or just a little bit ago on my show. It's dealing with depressions. You got to find ways to deal with it correctly. Everything, regardless of what it is, there's a way to handle it and a way not to handle it. And then you got to learn that we are so indoctrinated to think that these people are worthless as a tit on a boar hog because they're this way. We need to quit being that way. Now, My grandpa, my mom's dad, made a deal with the devil and became very psychotic afterwards. Family members I know that practiced dark magic became something completely different. So, can it come to you unnaturally and evil wise and be not used for good? Absolutely. I mean, that stuff happens. That's why I tell people I've never practiced dark magic, but I have family that did. And then, like, that's like schizophrenia. My grandpa, when he made a deal with the devil, he became a schizophrenic. I mean, he was bad. He literally thought he was a prophet, and it was in the Bible, and he was trying to tell all these people stuff. And you got to listen to me because I know what I'm talking about because I am a prophet. And on. I mean, just all this weird crap he was doing. He became
Uh-huh.
very violent, homeless for years. That can be brought on to you by either a curse or you doing something bad too. So you have to be careful on that aspect as well, because you can put that on somebody, and that to me that's not the natural way. When it's put
Right.
upon you,
Exactly.
that's a bad way. So you have to be very careful about that stuff as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree. I agree 100% night because I don't want anybody listening to my voice to ever think that just because they have something that people deem not normal to them physically or even mentally, that it is a disability. I
Hmm.
think that we need to start the creator to have the able to discern the communication from the supernatural
Hmm.
and the paranormal realms. It's the same principle, like I said over and over again tonight, about dealing with dogs and cats, and even normal
Hmm.
wildlife. If animals have the ability to visually see and to hear the supernatural and everything, that may not be a disability. It's because their frequency is different from ours. Okay. And their frequencies, and even, like Bengal tigers using infrasound to immobilize their prey, um, you know, that's the way Bigfoot was trying to communicate. Maybe the whole mind think or mind speaking is a legitimate thing, and maybe those people that are experiencing that either don't realize that they have an undiagnosed disability, making that
Hmm.
able to hear the fact that they were diagnosed with a disability and never came to terms with agreeing with it being a disability. Like I said, it's more of to me, it's more of an enhancement, a near-death experience, a ADHD, PTSD, autism, bipolarism, any disability, paranoid schizophrenia. I mean, it's all to me. It's the label and the stigma that is associated with those labels on people. I think destroys their spirit more than anything. It's bringing them at a lower frequency, a lower vibrational frequency. Okay, and we all know that darkness and evil likes lower frequencies. Okay, so when you're dealing with something paranormal and supernatural, you're dealing at a higher frequency. Okay, hence the electronic devices being able to be manipulated to these frequencies. Okay, so the whole thing with these labels is ridiculous because in the old days, Northwest, I know you'll agree with me on this, that in the old days when we had somebody in our nation, in our Oyate, in our tribal nation, and they were a little slow or acted a little, like a little kid when they were, an adult, or gifted. And I think that's what we need to go back to, because I guarantee if anybody does the research, please follow up on this research, because I don't think I'm going to have the ability to do it much longer. But follow up with bipolarism and the paranormal and the supernatural, with all these other disabilities in the paranormal, dogs and the cats that are able to hear and interact with the paranormal and supernatural. Compare it to the missing people because they're off by themselves and something happens to them. Okay. I'm telling you, it's all connected. Every bit of it is connected. And I'm just not going to have the energy or the resources anymore to continue down this path. So I leave it in everybody's hands tonight that can hear my voice. There is a connection. Okay, disabled means that you're disabled. I believe that being disabled means you're gifted and you're talented enough to interpret the paranormal and the supernatural communication frequencies. Okay, just like the electronic devices that are used in the field. And I am totally exhausted from talking so much.
I get you, man. Um, yeah, I mean, I agree. So, and one thing
I'm
you got to
literally
worry
out of
too
breath.
is if you're cursed with this stuff, that can be passed down through the bloodline too. So be very careful on that and be very mindful of that as well. Um, that's, I mean, it's sad but
Exactly.
true. But well, brother, I mean, I get it.
Exactly.
You're pootered out, and they're jacking with your audio and video.
I'm just, yeah. I just wanted to get this word out, man, because this is something that I'm animate about. And I know from my own personal experience, with dealing with 3 NDEs and dealing with my own disability, that it's heightened my ability to communicate and function and interact with the paranormal and supernatural my whole life. And I'm a firm believer that autistic children and autistic adults and even adults with Alzheimer's and adults with ADHD or bipolarism and children the same way, they are gifted enough to interpret those higher frequencies too, just like the
Mm.
electronic devices. So when a child comes up to you guys and that's autistic or that's bipolar and says, this is happening at night in my room, and the shadow man comes to see me, or the hat man comes to see me, or the tall man comes to see me, or there's shadows moving in my room, voices in my room. Um, don't shrug it off. Don't play it off like it's them being silly or them being just abnormal, because it's not. It's them being honest. Okay, it's them being heartfelt honest to be looking out for them. Okay, I'm animate about this. Okay, I really am. And to me, those autisms, those bipolarisms, those um, Alzheimer people, and children, they are the gifted ones. Okay, they are pretty much your biological electronic device for the paranormal and the supernatural. And as such, we've got to take them at their word. Okay. I really wish somebody would go further with this research. Um, like I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue it. Um, I want to thank everybody for being here. I wanted to get this word out, and make sure that everybody knew what my findings were on my research. I've got more research disclosures coming in the future, God willing. So that being said, tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. we'll be coming back on. Yeah, Josh, I see you, brother. I see you. Thank you. Jason, good to see you. Overbuilt, good to see you. Yeah, Josh, maybe I can get you and David together, and you guys can work with Eric on the research or whatnot, or anybody else that's willing. Um, but tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., we've got Supernatural uh, Sunday morning coffee talk. Okay, we're going to start off with doppelgangers being talked about, and then we're going to go from there into your own personal experiences. I want to bring people on again and just keep on going with that format. Okay. That being said, everybody pray for me. If you can, like this out, share this out. That means the world to me. I know that they're going to try and demonetize me for this topic, but it needed to be said. Okay, and if anybody wants to help out, there's always my GoFundMe. It's on the bottom of the screen, along with all the other stuff, the YouTube channel and all that. But yeah, it's a topic that needed to be discussed tonight, guys. And I want you all to know that, especially if you have children that are deemed disabled, and I hate that word. God, I hate that word. That they're gifted. Never assume that they're less than what so-called normal people are. Okay, never assume that. Take them at their word. Okay, a lot of times it's not an imaginary friend. A lot of times it's not them making stuff up just to be silly. Okay, take them at their word, and follow up on it. Okay, for me. All right. Um, I will see everybody tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, and Eric and I will be there hopefully. And I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Eric, you want to let them know what you got going on tomorrow? And
I don't
I'm
have a
going to just
topic
leave
yet
it.
for tomorrow.
I'm,
Yeah, I've man, I've
well,
been so brain
why,
fried. I
why don't we
have
just
no clue what I'm.
carry on the conversation about doppelgangers tomorrow?
Something, yeah. I've got to figure something out. I'm just like I've been so brain fried. I don't know what it has been this last few days, but my energy's been like completely zapped, and my brain has just been like blap. But I'll have something. I'll figure it out. So catch me at
Everybody,
6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We'll figure something out. So,
exactly. I'll
but
be there. I'll be there. I want everybody to know in the chat, you're loved, you're appreciated. Um, Without you, this research wouldn't mean anything, because there wouldn't be any ears to hear it and eyes to see it. Okay. And I know that sometimes my subject matter is really, really out there, but I am really, really adamant about this, folks, that this needs to be brought out. This needs to be discussed. Okay. And it needs to be researched even further. Okay. And I'm not saying put electrodes on children and zap them and see what happens. Okay. That's not what I'm saying.
oh,
Okay. And I'm not
oh,
talking some form of MK Ultra or some CIA experiment. Okay. I'm talking just normal journalism, normal journal things, journal whenever your child says something to you, journal it, date, time, you know, conditions, emotional state. Was there arguing at the time? Was there, you know, what was their reaction to it, the child's reaction to it? And just journal it, okay, and try to keep a comprehensive guide with you. All right, and research it as much as you can, because I'm telling you, that the connection is much more than just what I've found. I think it goes a lot deeper. Okay. So that being said, everybody, please question everything, hit that thumbs up, and I'll see everybody in the morning. Peace, love, and blessings, everybody.
Ciao. Peace, love, and blessings.
Ciao, Bella.
Ciao, Bella.
Thunder cracks created steps in the alley. Demons scatter quick, shadows play a rally. Angels pull up in hoodies, wings tucked tight. Heaven's militia ready to ignite. Chains rattling, streets screaming in pain. Evil out here wildin', trying to stake its claim. But the squad don't sleep, nah, they don't fold. Flame swords drawn, their wrath runs cold. Creator fights for you, the streets can't deny. Angels on patrol, wings cut in the sky. Evil runs, evil hides, it's a battle every night. But the light don't lose, nah, the light gon' fight. Concrete jungle where prayers get raw. Creator got that blueprint, he lays down the law. Angels circle the block, halos dim for war. They ain't here for peace talks, they settle the score. Knuckles crack, fists fly, darkness gets smacked. Evil got no alibi, caught in the act. Holy vengeance on deck, justice intact. Creator's army on the streets, never off track. Midnight sirens, but they don't need no badge. Heaven soldiers turn sin into ash. Midnight sirens, but they don't need no badge. Heaven soldiers turn sin into ash.